everybody, welcome to Press Pause, the video game discussion show. I'm your host, Carl Stradella. Today we're talking retro games again, part deuce. With me is Dan Shu.
Hey.
Co-host.
How's it going?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Good. Long time no see.
You want to have a discussion?
Yeah.
Okay. And back is Alex Noisy.
Howdy.
Not spelled like you think, but there it is.
Yeah.
And you are Gaijin Games.
Yeah, we're from Gaijin Games.
Gaijin Games,
Every time.
God.
Yeah. I'm a co-founder and CEO, as the little
sounds
title
so
thing says.
awesome.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's very awesome.
And
I'm
your
glad to
games
be
are
here.
awesome. Let's talk about your games for half a second. You have a Wii game coming out.
We do.
And a 3DS game coming out, which is both great because both those systems have on them. And I believe that.
Don't you have to bleep that?
I already did.
You did. Wow. Awesome.
I had because I was so mad about that.
That's like real-time bleepage. Yeah, BitTrip Complete is like the full deal. All 6 games with a whole bunch of extra features and all kinds of crazy stuff. And BitTrip Saga is all 6 games, again, on the 3DS with 3D. Take it on the go. It looks beautiful on that little screen.
So how long did it take you to do the 3D part of it? I mean, like.
Well, the 3Dness was pretty easy, but like it was easy to implement. But then there were some creepy bugs. Dude, just not to nerd out totally,
right?
But yeah. So you know how it works, right? With the 2 cameras and the eyeballs.
Yeah.
And there was a part in Runner where your right eye, the camera wouldn't refresh as much. So you're watching in 3D, and then all of a sudden this one starts lagging behind and doing this.
Oh.
And so your eye is just like.
And so you had a seizure and you just fell
full
down.
on. Yeah. Oh, instant headache. So, but we fixed that.
Good. That is not in the game.
Not in the game. Not a feature of the game. Just
Is that why you're
awesomeness.
cross-eyed right now?
I know,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like,
That's
you don't look
and this
good.
is what happened.
You can do that. You're talented.
Yeah, I
That's
can even do
scaring me.
the one.
We're going to continue our retro discussion that we started on the podcast Mobcast, which is bitmob.com/podcasts. You can see that.
Podcast, singular.
Podcast singular, not podcasts. Did I say that? I think I did. And we talked about retro games, and last week we talked about different things we'd like to see in games. Kind of taking cues from the old school games and some different imagination stuff. Today we're going to talk about specifically 8-bit / retro graphics, really simple kind of style graphics. And what I thought I would talk about, especially obviously you being on the show, having some retro graphics yourself, what is it about 8-bit or retro that works still? Because obviously we're in the pretty hardcore graphics era. Yet you play any game that's an indie game or a AAA title that happens to be just like a 8-bit game on purpose or something, and we are totally fine with it. We're like, yeah, that sounds great. So I'm wondering if it's A, because things go in cycles, like the 60s clothes came back, 80s came back. Is it just because it's come on its way back? Or one of my ideas was that maybe because it's so simple, our brain has to process less. So we're just like, let's have fun.
I think.
Or neither.
No, I think you might be onto something with each of those, but I think the way I think about it is that human beings, it is in our nature as human beings to be imaginative. We are imaginative creatures. We always dream, we make up stories, we think, we paint. We are constantly just thinking about what if, right? And I think that retro graphics allow us to tap into that really tasty part of our humanity that lets our minds go and lets us be more than we actually are or experience more than we're actually experiencing. And so that's why I think the draw is there to retro. Like back in the day, you would get, I think we talked about Adventure on the 2600 on the podcast, and it was like your knight was a square, and he was so badass. Like this square was awesome.
Yeah.
And
he was a square.
And he was a square, right?
Oh, for you young guys who don't know what we're talking about, Atari 2600, look it up. It was a system back a million years ago.
It wasn't even this.
Yeah. It was one of those.
It was one of those. And so I think that works. And for us, with our games, with the BitTrip series, it works really well because we're trying to tell a story that has a lot of ambiguity in it and allows for player reflection. And so using the retro style for us gives this home to what you might want to explore like internally. That's why I think retro is big.
Yeah, and yours matches, your games match with the story, like you said, the story ambiguity. It's like, hey, just fill in what you think might be in that area of the history of the adventure. And
you're probably right too. Like when you're the player, as they're thinking about it, whatever they're coming up with in their head is probably.
Well, that's similar to music then, right? So like we hear a song, I hear a song differently than you hear it.
Sure, yeah.
I'm like, this is what it means to me.
Yeah, especially music without words. right? Like instrumental music, play a lot of old classical music. It'll make you feel and emote differently than it does for me. And neither is wrong,
Right.
and both are right. And
Everything
both
is
are
everything.
precious.
Sorry.
And everything is everything. Yeah.
Dan, what do you think about the idea of it coming back, though? Is that something that you think is part of it, or?
Well, what I'm curious your Bit Trip games, if you have like demographics, an idea of like who tends to buy those games, are drawn to it, because my theory, to answer your question, is sort of this older generation. I think you're right, but I think it's also that because we grew up with it, and we're the older generation of gamers with a lot of the disposable income. So I think my suspicion is a 30-year-old gamer might be more drawn to a Bit Trip game, like a new modern game with retro graphics, than say a 15-year-old who didn't grow up with that.
He just wants like realism.
He's just like used to polygons and 3D stuff, and then for him, it's like maybe guys like us might like something like Braid, that's like modern retro look to it, versus again like a 10-year-old or 15.
So you're saying that basically just we like retro games.
Yeah.
It's familiar to us.
All of us old,
so you have
the three of us.
Yeah, like when I first played the Bit Trip games, like to me, there's nostalgia as part of the draw to it. You know, so I think that's a feeling that I have.
Yeah.
Could personally have playing that game that I'm assuming a 10-year-old kid doesn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's like our demographics are definitely, you've got the old farts like us who are nostalgic.
Really? We're right here. You're going to call us old farts? All right.
Who are nostalgic.
Anyways.
What?
Continue. No, it's fine.
Uh-oh. We've invoked.
We're old farts. Amadi, yes. Keep going.
Certainly that's part of the audience for the Bit Trip games, but I think also our games really appeal to brave gamers. Like, and what I mean by that is people who want to experiment with something new. Like they haven't seen something like what we're offering yet, or they're not seeing it in the marketplace currently, right? So we've got rhythm music games, yes, but it's not a Guitar Hero clone. It's retro style, but it's not totally retro. It's chip tunes, but not really. So it's like this weird, our series is kind of this strange retro-inspired thing, and I think you need to kind of let yourself go out on a limb to experience something new. And what we've encountered with our fans that are younger, because we do have a lot of them, it's that they're those kind of people who want something that they're not getting elsewhere.
Right.
And
like Parappa the Rapper did for us. So like when PS1 came out, you're like, whoa, what is this style of game? I have no idea, but I love it.
Kick, punch, it's all in the mind. If you wanna test me, I'm sure you'll find the things I'll teach ya. Sure to beat ya. Nevertheless, you'll get a lesson from teacher. Now kick, punch, jump, block. Once more now.
yes.
And it wasn't about the graphics. So those graphics were pretty, pixely, and it didn't even matter. It was
pretty weird
because it was different.
Yeah.
That's an interesting, take on it. It's
I was
like
determined I was going to hate that game, and I bought it to prove that I was going to hate it. And
Well, I'll show
and
them.
completely
By giving
fell
them
in
my
love.
money.
Yeah, I'll show them.
You're
Yeah,
like,
exactly. That's why I bought Pokemon as well, actually.
Oh.
And both games completely changed my life.
You heard it here first. Pokemon changed Alec Noise's life. Well, it changed everybody's life. I mean, people still play it. Last part of that, though, what about the idea about simple me just being easier for our brains to compute? I just came up with it this morning. I don't know, like, hey, I just know that I'm just going to have fun. Like, say you're in a really massive game. Recently, I picked up Far Cry 2 again to talk a little bit about what we talked about last week, where, open world stuff. It's pretty awesome with that. Even though the graphics are a little dated, it's pretty immersive. But in that game, there's so much going on. I got malaria. I got to do this, because that's what happens in the game. You get malaria in the beginning. And I got malaria, and I got these, how much ammo do I have left? And oh, the guy almost just shot me. Where did he come from? And, it's a continual barrage of this world. And, like, in Mario, I'm like, there's that turtle.
I think
and then I can maybe just have, like, more fun with that. You know what I mean? Like, our world is so busy. Is that even?
I think it kind of gives your brain a chance to take a break. And I don't think it even has to be like 8-bit or pre-8-bit style graphics necessarily.
Right.
Like Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet.
Right.
It's like, it's 2D, it's very reminiscent of old school Metroid, but it's just, sometimes it's kind of relaxing almost to play a game like that where you only have to think in 2 dimensions. And it's like
that's
kind of
definitely.
flat.
I think 2D is it then. It's not necessarily 8-bit or
I
retro.
don't think it has to be pixely.
Yeah.
I think it's just like, sometimes like, okay, it's just relaxing to play in 2 dimensions.
Yeah, dude, you're totally getting to something that I hadn't thought of it that way before, but there's something that I have been thinking about lately where retro doesn't just mean, like you just said, blocky and crusty looking.
Yeah.
There can be retro gameplay.
Yep.
Like, and that gameplay in and of itself as a concept has no graphics, has no visuals, right? So what is retro gameplay? And I think retro gameplay touches on what you were talking about with the simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something that people like when they know the rules, they can understand them all, they don't have to think too hard to remember all the, like, how do I use all 18 of these buttons?
Yeah.
You know, it allows you to relax in a way, your brain to relax in a way, but also it gives your brain, it
Enough
empowers your
stimulation.
brain.
Yeah.
Because it knows everything it needs to do, so you can focus on other things.
I think that's the reason, like, you guys play Geometry Wars, right?
Sure.
I think that's part of its appeal. When it came out, it's
Yeah.
like, we've done twin stick shooters, we've had much more complex and deeper shooters, 2D shooters even, but when that came out, people, I think, really liked it because it's just familiar and comfortable.
Yeah.
Just
and
one
easy.
area. It's just one area.
Yeah,
and take
one
care of this,
screen.
stuff.
Your power up. You don't have to think about switching power ups and that kind of
Yeah,
stuff, or
yeah.
upgrades
Yeah.
and ammo or anything like that. Just shoot. Just shoot everything you can. See how long you can last.
Yeah, yeah.
And people loved it. I
It's
think.
distilled.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
it's
It's
like
yeah.
pure. I love that.
I think that's it then. It doesn't have to be retro 8-bitty. It's kind of this different way to think about it. Oh, and
I
that's
think
why
there's
iPhone,
a purity.
That's why iPhone and iPad games are doing so well. Maybe, you know what I mean? And the fact that it might be a different discussion, but
Yeah.
if there's something simple like cut the rope or whatever, right? That's like literally. Oh, he's all mad about iPhone games.
Yeah,
we won't get into that.
We're
That's
not
another
talking. We're
show.
not talking about iPhone games.
Never mind. Thanks for being here for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
You have a great
do I
wardrobe.
get to go home?
No.
No?
We're gonna do
All right.
2 more shows of this.
Okay.
I want to change my clothes.
You
Been
can.
here
know,
over
it
there
does
for
yeah.
so long.
I thought you said you lived behind there.
Yeah.
You don't have change of clothing back there?
I used to live behind there, and he kicked me out.
We're making a backstory. See, now you fill it in. You fill that in. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week. The end. Game over.